right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fifth concurrent session of the day, Stress Less, addressing burnout, all while handling the paperload in an online setting. So our presenter today is Nicole Wilson, who is an English lecturer at Bowie State University. Professor Nicole Wilson has been teaching technical writing and English composition courses at Bowie State University since 2000. And in addition to her teaching responsibilities, she has assessed and reviewed technical writing and composition textbooks and online interactive composition and learning programs. Outside of her professional job, she has served as a supervisor for creating an interactive whiteboard reading curriculum for elementary and middle schools, written grants and proposals to promote health and wellness, and she is the co-author of a book titled A Mom's Time Out. So if you have any questions at all during the presentation, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we'll be able to address those at the end of the talk. On that note, I will go ahead and hand it over to our presenter.
Hello, everyone. Once again, thank you for that presentation. Thank you. As he said, my name is Nicole Wilson, and I'm from Bowie State University in the Department of Language, Literature, and Cultural Studies. Can everyone see my screen just fine? I think so.
We can see you, but the screen is not shared right now.
Oh, I'm not sharing my, okay. Thank you. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Welcome to the presentation, again, addressing burnout, all while handling the paper load in an online setting. So I want to begin by talking about how I even started with this. When the pandemic started on March 13th, a year ago, my sister sent me a text and she said, "I think you're going online, congratulations." And I sent a text back to her saying, "Thank you," in a kind way. But I realized that because I've been teaching online for so long, that this was going to be more stressful than ever before, because normally I would teach maybe 1 or 2 classes online, but if we went fully online, which was what happened on March 13th, I would have to teach 5 classes. So I knew that the workload was going to be heavy, but I didn't realize how heavy it was going to be. What I found after the pandemic started and I was at home teaching online, that I was spending many of my days, I'd wake up early in the morning, get in front of my computer, I'd look up and it would be 7 o'clock at night and I was still in front of my computer working, and that happened almost every day of the week. So something had to change. So I want to share with you, and I hope that I'll be receiving from you other suggestions and insights on what you've done to handle the stress. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and some of the things that I learned as I took on this endeavor. So I'll begin by talking a little bit about the 6 stages of burnout. Katie Maycock, an anxiety specialist for corporate executives, says there are 6 stages of burnout. The first stage is excitement, then let's work harder, then frustration, illness and denial, lack of drive, and then burnout. And that's sort of what happened to me. I was excited. Yes, we're going to teach online and we're going to do this. And I was optimistic and super motivated. But as you saw, as I explained earlier, I wasn't really taking care of myself because I was sitting in front of that computer all day long. Then she says after that stage, you go through the let's work a little bit harder. Your initial energy starts to wear off, but you're constantly working, but you're still not taking time off for self-care. That leads into frustration, where your energy begins to wane and it seems impossible to attain. I don't know how many of you have ever experienced this, where your concentration declines and your productivity may start slipping. Then illness and denial. You are exhausted and worn out, and negative health issues ensue because of burnout. Lack of drive and apathy, your initial drive is gone. You are apathetic and withdrawn. And then the last stage, burnout has me now. You are completely and utterly mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted. So let's just talk about stress here. We understand that stress happens to all of us. It's a constant state of high alert, and this can lead to health problems. I read a book about stress in Time magazine, and they said that there's no real fix for stress, but there are ways to master stress, and in doing so, to make sure that it never masters us. So that was my goal. I did not want to be mastered by stress. So why are teachers and professors so stressed? One article says that teachers worry for all sorts of reasons. So that's why we're stressed all the time. We make a ton of decisions. We cycle between high intensity emotions and we worry too much. I don't know about you, but for me, my students become an extension in terms of, I care about what happens to them. I want to know what's going on in their lives. And when the pandemic hit, the stress became greater because now I had students who were taking care of parents, had students who were taking care of their siblings, and I even lost a student, unfortunately. So let's take a breath. I want you to do this with me before we even begin. We're going to start talking about how to get rid of this stress. So one of the things that I learned is a wonderful app for learning how to breathe is that when you take a breath, and I want you to do this with me, you're supposed to breathe in through your nose and expand your stomach like a balloon, and then exhale through your mouth, causing your stomach to go in. So let's do this together. Breathe in through your nose. Hold it for a couple of seconds. Breathe out. Do this one more time because that was pretty good. Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that reduce stress. Breathing. That's a great way to reduce stress, especially in between classes. For me, my classes were back to back, so I only had like 10 minutes, sometimes less than that in between classes. Sunshine. I'm here in Maryland and it's raining out today, but I tried my best to get some sunshine whenever I could. And sometimes it was in between those classes, just run out, look at the sun. Exercise, we all know that exercise is a great way to reduce stress. Positive thinking and doing activities that bring you joy. So these are all very easy stress reducers that we can take on in the middle of the day or even in the middle of the semester. The goal when we are teaching is to find balance. I have a family, I have a full-time job, and I have other responsibilities. So I tried to figure out how do I begin to find this balance? Because even though I was at home, I still had a lot going on. So we're going to talk about ways to find this balance, or ways that I sought to find balance. We're going to talk about 10 strategies for achieving balance in the online classroom. And I'm going to run through the list here, and then I'm going to talk about them. So one of the ways that I found balance was to organize, prepare, eliminate distractions, be consistent, present, use rubrics, managing the paper load, managing adverse stress, playing hard, and accepting stress. So we're going to begin with organization. The first thing that I did is organized my workspace. Gretchen Rubin, in her book, The Happiness Project, speaks a lot about organization. And one of the things that I realized that I had to do was create a happy space for me. I've heard of man caves. Now there are women caves. And so that's exactly what I did. I went into my office, my special place, and began creating that special place for me. So one of the things that Gretchen Rubin talked about was placing your books, the books that you love, where you could see them. So for me, I love children's stories, and I also love technical writing. So on one bookcase, I had my children's stories right where I could see it when I walked into my office. The other bookcase had all my technical writing books. And I created a space that made me feel happy to go into that room. So I don't know where your space is, but it's so important that if you can figure out a way to create a zone just for you that makes you feel good, it makes all the difference in the world. Put all of your tools and resources in a place where you have easy access. I call it the functioning office. Now, I coined this term from a cousin. One day I went into her kitchen. It was completely organized with the spices in one place and pots and pans there. And she said, you know, I believe in the functioning kitchen. She said, I have all of my bakeware right next to my oven so that all I have to do is put my hand in that cabinet to get my bakeware. And so I created a functioning office where I have all the tools that I need right next to me. So I have my pens all where I need them, my papers where I can take notes. So put all your tools in the right place. It reduces the stress of having to worry about where is that pencil that I need right now, right? Find a quick and easy creature comfort. I heard that peppermint is one good way to reduce stress. So one of the things that I try my best to do is to have some peppermint on my desk every single day, because sometimes it can be a bit stressful. I also, your creature comfort might be some tea, some chamomile tea or some other kind of tea, but find a quick and easy creature comfort to keep next to you. I love the book by James Clear, titled Atomic Habits. One of the things that he says in his book is that motivation is overrated. Environment matters more. One of the most effective ways to reduce the friction associated with your habits is to practice environment design. So that is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. Organize your workspace for you. Another thing that I did was prepare. Plan your personal schedule. Like, I know that my job has given me a work schedule, the time where I have to teach. I get the opportunity to pick my office hours, so that's a good thing. But I also needed to turn around and create my own schedule. As I said, I was waking up early in the morning, sitting in front of the computer and staying there until the evening. So I decided to create a begin and a stop time. I aim to unite my schedule with my own circadian rhythm. I have a coworker, we talked about, are you a night person? Are you a morning person? When do you function best? So for me, I grade papers early in the morning because I am a morning person. That reduces the stress so that I'm not up at 10, 11 o'clock at night with a red pen in my hand or typing on the computer and falling asleep. I plan my syllabus from day one until the last day of the semester. I don't like for my students to wonder what we're doing. During the semester, I want them to know what we're doing on the first day until the very end. Now, it takes a lot of time in the beginning, but it makes life so much easier as I go throughout the semester, because I don't have to wonder about what we're doing for the day, and they don't have to wonder what we're doing for the day. In addition to doing that, I also create a daily lesson plan where I have a notebook that I list what are we going to do for, what are the little things that we're going to do in the class to make sure that I'm fully prepared, and it makes the class run so much smoother. Take one day to schedule for the week's task. For me, I take one day on the weekend and I sit in front of my computer every week and I plan out everything that I'm going to have to do for the week. When am I going to prepare my lectures if I'm going to add an additional lecture? When will I grade all of those papers? When will I address student issues? A lot of times I'll get emails all day long. So I had to put in place a time for addressing student issues. In terms of you, have you thought about when will you work on your own professional development? A lot of times, if we get so caught up in working and grading, we don't have enough time to do the things that we love. So I planned a time during the week for professional development. And the other big part of this planning and preparation is rewards. How will you check yourself to make sure you're doing what you said you would do? And how will you reward yourself? What is it that you love to do? For me, sometimes it's just sitting in the office, relaxing with nothing to do. So how will you reward yourself? That's all a part of my preparation. I recommend that we eliminate distractions. This is a great way to reduce stress. Now, I know you're probably thinking I'm talking about kick everybody out the house, make sure no one is making noise. I'm not talking about those kinds of distractions. I'm talking about these kind of distractions. Number one, be good to yourself. Purchase the tools that you need. High-speed internet if you need that, because it is a distraction if your internet is running slowly and people can't hear you. Or for me, I like having dual monitors because I grade papers online. I want to have, the class on one side and the papers on the other side. So I invested in dual monitors. I love having a trackpad, for example. What is it that you enjoy? What are the tools that you need to be successful in doing what you do? Think about that and treat yourself to those tools. Create a contingency plan for distracting situations. So my favorite place in my house is my sunroom. And that is the place where I created an office space. But unfortunately, because it is a sunroom, one of the things that is a distraction is the rain. I can hear the rain on the rooftop. So I know that if it's raining, that I have to move out of my sunroom and I have to have a plan in place, because what I don't want to do is be in a situation where I am finding myself being distracted by the rain. Get out of your head. A lot of times when we're online and we're teaching, things are going to go wrong. And immediately we start blaming ourselves and getting frustrated, talking to ourselves in a negative way. Don't do that. Get out of your head, work around whatever distractions are going on, and keep moving forward, because you are great. You are phenomenal. Do not accept the things you do not like. In the beginning, the big problem was, do we force our students to put on the camera, or do we not force them to put on the camera? And that, it was a big debate in my department. And one of my colleagues said, I want to see their faces. So I asked them at the beginning of the semester to put their cameras on. And if they turn their cameras off before class ends, I speak to them and say, hey, you didn't have your camera on, Susie. What happened? And she said that she does not have problems with cameras. So that was the thing that she did not like. I'm still on the fence. I know the research shows that it's great to have for students to have their cameras on, but I have children who are in high school and college, and they've kind of helped me understand it a little differently. So that's not the thing that I don't like, but if I see something that I do not like, I address it, and I usually hold the student back at the end of class, and we have a one-on-one conversation about it, because it will become a distraction for you. And then finally, allow for mistakes. I think I already talked about that. We're online. This is a very interesting time that we're living in, and mistakes are going to happen. Just allow for them and forgive your technology. Be consistent. One of the things that I had to learn quickly is to go to bed. I like to get up early in the morning, and if I don't get the rest that I need, I'm not going to be any good. So yeah, there were many nights where I wanted to stay up and talk or watch television or do the fun things that I enjoy doing, but I really keep and maintain a pretty consistent schedule, because if I get off schedule, it's going to cause problems. Stick to your plan. A lot of times when we make a plan, it is very, very easy when you get in the middle of it to go off of your plan. If you stick to your plan, you will do it over and over and over again, and it'll become a habit. So one of the ways that you can do that is to avoid cheating twice in a row. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, that was his suggestion. If you're going to miss this one time, just make sure that you don't miss it twice. And a lot of times when we are feeling discouraged and we don't want to stick to our plan, one good trick or strategy that I found is to use the 15-minute strategy. Okay, so I have to grade papers. I said that I was going to grade papers at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm tired. I don't feel like it anymore. So let me sit down for 15 minutes and grade my papers. And the next thing you know, I look up and an hour has gone by and the papers are graded, and I feel great when my papers are graded. James Clear also talks about the 2-minute strategy, where he says, if you can't do it for 15, just try it for 2 minutes. And sometimes, sometimes distractions come. If it comes, don't skip twice in a row. Be present. This is very important. In the classroom, I find that if I am there, my students will be there. So show up and be on time. I like to start my classes about 5 to 10 minutes early. I'll usually put some soft music on in the background, and with a timer that says class is going to start in 5 minutes. That lets the students know that I'm there, that I'm consistent. Establish a routine for office hours. A lot of times when I'm in my office hours, students don't show up. So I don't want to sit there twiddling my thumbs. So I know exactly what I'm going to do each day while I'm sitting there. Learn to say no and be comfortable with this. In the beginning, years ago when I started teaching online, I would say, okay, I'm available 7 days out of the week. And then I found that, I would be answering emails on the weekends, at night. It was too much for me. I have to have a start time and a stop time. And sometimes students might say, hey, can you meet with me on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m.? And the answer is no. So learn to say no and be comfortable with this. I say that because a lot of times we want to say no, but we're uncomfortable because we don't know how we're going to make that person feel. I love, one person said that people who love you need to learn how to love your yes and your no. So learn to say no. And then finally, create an email response procedure. Many books talk about answering emails and how it's most effective to answer them later in the afternoon and not early in the morning, because that's your productivity time. So create an email response procedure to help to reduce your stress. So I'm going to move from just the things that we do on a daily basis to get into how I manage the paper load and reduce the stress with grading papers. I teach, as I said before, I teach technical writing, I teach expository writing, so I receive a lot of papers. So one thing that I do to reduce the stress in grading is to use rubrics. Rubrics are our friend. Well-designed rubrics make grading easier and feedback more accessible and more understandable. I want my students to know why they received the grade that they received. And it gives me great pleasure to sit down with a student, if a student doesn't understand, to say, okay, well, let's look at the rubric here. You did not have a thesis statement. And so we can talk about that, and it makes grading a lot easier for me. Manage the paper load. One way that I manage the paper load is to know my objectives for my assignment. A lot of time, as I teach English, I teach writing, but I don't, sometimes I just want to know, does the student know how to cite sources properly? So if I'm looking to see if the student knows how to cite sources, that's the objective of the assignment. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time looking at the comma splices and parallelism errors. I spend my time doing that when I look at the essay or the technical report or the proposal. So that leads me to my next point: refrain from dabbling in the minutia. A lot of times, if I spend all of my time with the red pen going through every single error that my students have, it's going to be overwhelming for me. It's going to be overwhelming for them. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not addressing the errors that they have. I do have a procedure for that. But I've learned that if I'm dabbling in the minutia, it's going to take away from doing the things that I really need to get done and create more stress. Create clear directions for your students. There's nothing more frustrating for you and for them if the directions aren't clear. And I'm not saying that I am perfect. Sometimes students don't understand, and at that point, I try my best to make sure that we have a conversation about that, and I change directions if I need to make sure that they're clear. And make it a team effort. The one thing I love about my department is that we work together. We work together to build syllabi. We work together even on assignments. We'll call each other and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Sometimes we create assignments and everyone does the same assignment. It really helps to reduce the paper load and it helps to reduce the stress. Manage adverse situations. One of the things that I find in the classroom is that it can be a bit stressful. So one of the ways that I try my best to manage that stress is to bring positive energy. So when I walk into the class or come on Zoom, I told you already that I start with some nice upbeat music, a smile, hello, how are you doing? Today is going to be a great day. If you bring that positive energy, it will come back to you. Remember, you are the adult in the room. You have already heard me say that sometimes if a student is doing something that I do not like, I will address it at a time where the student is not in front of everyone. A lot of times you might get a student who may want to be combative, but I don't let them take charge of my classroom because I am the adult in the room. So this is a conversation that we need to have after class or at another time. Be fair. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Students are going through a lot. I already shared with you how I even have students who are taking care of their siblings because their parents cannot, because either their parents have to go to work or their parents are distracted by work. So my goal is always to be fair to my students. Create room for mistakes and issues. I have statements on my syllabus. Normally, it used to be, we do not ever accept any late work. That was the original statement. But because of the pandemic and things that were going on with the pandemic, we changed our statement to late work may not be accepted. And then I even put in a late work policy for situations where it would be accepted. If I have a student who contracts COVID, for example, most certainly I am not going to say, well, nope, I'm not accepting your assignment. So I've created a contingency plan in my syllabus. This next one, step away from the keyboard. Sometimes you may receive an email that might not make you very, very happy. I highly suggest that to reduce the stress later, you step away from the keyboard. Usually, instead of typing to the student, I may call a colleague or send a text to a colleague and talk this through, or just wait a minute and calm down and look at what's going on. But I find that it doesn't benefit any of us if I start ranting back at a student who's upset about whatever situation. And then, as I said before, seek help from colleagues, mentors, and administrators. I think we have such a great team at Bowie State University. I really enjoy the rapport that I have with my colleagues. We talk through situations when we have problems, and that makes all the difference in the world. I'm going to close by talking about two other things. The first is, ladies and gentlemen, play hard. Take time off. You should not have to work from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. Take time off. Do the things that bring you joy. If you can fit those things in during the day after work, that's great. Enjoy your family and friends. It's been very difficult to get together with friends, but one of the things that we've done is tried to find some creative ways to get together, whether it was a drive-by or sitting outside in a big, fat 6 to 12-foot circle and saying hello with mask on. Laugh a lot. Life is short and laughter is a good medicine. And then get moving. Exercise is so important. If you want to reduce that stress, go outside, take a walk. It will benefit you. I am a witness to that. And the last thing that I'm going to say before I close is accept stress. Stress is going to happen. Let's face it. I tell my students this all the time. Work is, well, work. We don't go to fun, we go to work, right? Understand that you're not alone and that this will pass. Yield to getting the job done no matter what, because the bottom line is that you have one of the greatest jobs ever. You get to change minds and educate individuals. Finally, I love this statement. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you about how you're dancing in the rain in the midst of this pandemic and all that's going on. At this time, I'll entertain any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me.
Thank you so much for that, Nicole. I will just send a quick reminder to everyone that if you do have any questions or have any feedback you want to give, you can go into the Q&A area at the bottom of the Zoom window now and feel free to submit that. And then there were few comments and questions that have come through. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them yet, Nicole.
No, I didn't.
A lot of great feedback for you. So so you're getting some high praise in the Q&A. So
good.
But so let's see, Dr. Zadina said, your visuals are great. You have a wonderful way of speaking and presenting.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Another instructor here, just saying really good informative session. Thank you. And then that's what I really like from Felisa Williams.
Thank you, Felisa.
So amazing and inspiring. I really needed to hear this I really needed to hear this. For no one understands an English teacher until you walk in her shoes. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so then we do have a few questions here.
Okay.
So Connie said, my largest time gobbler is using SpeedGrader or Box. Schools require using those in addition to the rubric, but they require 3 to 4 steps per comment. After 3 hours of grading. I want to scream. Bit of a comment and a question in there too, I guess, but
yeah. Yeah, we have Box. I think that comes with Blackboard. And the thing that I like about Box is that it has a library and I can actually put in all of the comments that I want to put for anything. Like I have a whole list now for parallelism errors. Oh, you didn't put a colon after your salutation. And so that helps to reduce the grading time by using the library in Box. That way I can just click on that. But yeah, I understand. That seems a bit difficult. Yes.
So Selena asked, I'm in a deep grading hole. What would be one?
For me, when I get into those grading holes, because I know what you're talking about, some of the strategies that I do, number one, I look at the class realistically, or what I have to grade. So let's just say I have essays, for example. I know this is going to take a long time to grade those essays, sometimes 3 hours or more. And so I'll say, okay, this essay is going to take 3 hours for me to grade. So when do I have time to grade for 3 hours? And am I going to do this 3 hours straight, or am I going to break it up and grade in the morning and then the afternoon and then the evening, or break it up over 3 days? And sometimes, because, you know, when we get into that hole, we got to get it done. I'll do things like, I'm going to grade 5 papers, stop, give myself a reward, then go back to 5 more, yay, until I get it all done. So I really try to break things up, because when you get into that hole, I understand it can be quite frustrating. So the only way I know to get out of the hole is to break it up into chunks and to reward myself along the way. That's what I do.
So Carol said, I appreciate your emphasis on the value of rubrics. Do you find it useful to short lecture videos for students to watch before class rather than expecting them to read the materials?
Okay, so we have been talking about this because I have some professors who record their videos before class for students to watch the videos, and some who do not. I find that a lot of my students don't watch the videos. So it's almost a waste of time. I prefer to be in the classroom, having them do the work in the classroom and getting active on that and forcing them to read in other ways. So I hope I answered your question.
So we have another one in here. They said, I get headaches and blue light blocking glasses and blockers eliminated them before the pandemic, but now they're back. I feel bad cutting back feedback to manage this issue. Any suggestions? Do you think it would be reasonable to focus feedback to particular objectives at a time?
I do think that, but I also want to say this. You may want to look at the setting on your computer. I know that when I was in my office at work before the pandemic, I was getting headaches looking at the screen. And then my husband, who's a techie kind of guy, said, oh, it's the setting on your monitor. You need to fix the setting to, and I forgot the number, but he told me to change the number. And when I changed the number, the headaches went away. So that's one thing. But yeah, I believe in looking at assignments and grading based off of objectives, because one fact that I learned this summer is that students retain about 10% of what they learn in one class. That is a very, very low number. So for me, I want to focus on the things that I want them to learn about and see if they master those things.
So we might have time for one or maybe 2 more questions. So
okay.
So Martha asked, what is the best way to respond to students who want both detailed feedback and quick feedback?
Oh, that's a great answer. I mean, a great question. I do a little bit of both. It depends on what the assignment is. But I ask them to come visit me during office hours. So for those students who want detailed feedback, Professor Wilson, I don't understand, why. I know the rubric says this, but I don't understand why. Can you help me a little bit more? Absolutely. Come see me during office hours. Let's take a look at this paper and let's talk about what you need. So that's the way that I handle it.
So I'm going to try to squeeze one last question in here.
Okay.
Carla asked, we are on spring break this week, which brings up the usual round of students who want to catch up. It's worse than this. Do you have suggestions besides syllabus statements that could help with this? When have you found is too late in the term?
So I think that's really personal. I'm Ms. Johnson, I'm with you right now. I have one student who did not come to class for most of the semester. And when I finally was able to get him, his statement was he was just overwhelmed and stressed and he doesn't know what to do. And I think it's really a case-by-case situation. So I think you have to do what is fair. To not, a lot of times when we think of fair, we think of fairness in terms of what's fair to the student, but also to those who were just as stressed, but decided to get up and come anyway. We have to do what's legal, and we have to do what is in the best interest for both the student and for you. It's going to be stressful if a student has to make up, 5 essays in 1 week. It's not going to be quality work, and it's going to be a waste of time. And that's why I say sometimes no is the thing that we have to be comfortable with saying. So I hope that helps.
So, well, thank you for that, but it does look like we are right at our time. So thank you, Nicole, for all the valuable information that you shared today. That was excellent.
Thank you.
I'm going to be launching a quick 3-question poll about the presentation we just watched. So if everyone can please take a minute to answer that, I will have it up in just 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that poll should be up for everyone now. So if you can just take a moment to answer that, that would be greatly appreciated. I see all the answers coming in now. All right, so for the last hour of the day, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. If you're in the need of a little relaxation and could use a stretch, please join us for our happy hour yoga. If you prefer to stretch your mind, test your knowledge with virtual Teams trivia, or if you'd like to keep the conversation going with your colleagues, you can join one of our 2 roundtable discussions where you can talk through today's sessions and network with the fellow attendees. So these events will all begin at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and you can take a look in the chat for the event meeting room links or to access the conference website for a complete list of tomorrow's concurrent sessions and their descriptions. Now, if you'd like to start, or if you'd like to get an early start tomorrow morning, you can join us for a stretch during our 9 a.m. chair yoga session. So IES will be continuing tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time with a keynote from Mary Ellen Dance on better understanding and managing stress. We'll also be hearing from keynote speaker Nelson Lover, who will share his encouraging story of overcoming illiteracy caused by undiagnosed dyslexia. Now, last thing is, while accessing the conference website, please do not forget to swing by the exhibit hall and say hello to the Hawks team. By just viewing a quick 5-minute demonstration, you'll be entered to win through our hourly giveaway, your choice of a smart pen, standing desk, or $100 Amazon gift card, which are awesome prizes for 5 minutes of your time. So with that, I'll say another thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you, Nicole, and hope to see everyone at the next sessions tomorrow.
Okay, bye-bye.